Hello friends and welcome to Into Fly Fishing. I'm Nic Javonovich and today we're going to break down the fundamentals of your standard basic fly cast. A single hand fly cast, a 10 and 2 fly cast, goes by a couple of different names. Whatever it is, it's that beginner, very basic introductory cast that you need to learn how to fly fish. We'll get out to the river here in just a moment, but before we do, if you don't mind, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check us out on the other social media channels as well. It really helps out a lot. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort to bring these videos to you. We love doing it. We want to keep doing it. So anything you can do to support us is a big deal. Thank you very much. All right, let's get out there. And before we actually get into casting, let me tell you a little bit about the grip. So you've got your cork grip down here close to the end of the rod, right above the reel. You'll take your hand and wrap your palm up against the cork like this, and then your thumb, kind of like you're golfing, goes right up the back of the cork here. Now, a lot of people want to do it this way. I personally feel that's an incorrect grip. You don't get very good power. It might feel like you got a little more finesse to it, but this here is the correct grip on the fly rod, thumb up like so. We'll start the rod from forward, and we're going to kind of pull from the fingers into the rod toward our wrist, forearm, and kind of bring our shoulder and our elbow back together, and then get a good stop at the end. And that stop comes when we do a little bit of a wrist flick like so, or a little stop on the wrist. And then we'll repeat the motion by pushing from our thumb and thumb pad back through the cork handle here, going forward, and we'll come forward and we'll just reverse that motion, shoulder, elbow, forearm, thumb, and stop it with just a little bit of pop on the wrist there as well going forward. So stop, 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 and that's about it. What we don't want to do is called breaking your wrist over. We don't want to turn the rod like this, and I'll show you why in just a moment. We really want to come kind of straight back and straight forward with the cast. Now let's break down that casting motion. Remember, we've got two parts to make up one cast. We've got the back cast, and then we have the forward cast as well. So as I told you before, I'm going to start with my rod out in front of me, tip slightly up. I'm going to start the back cast by popping backward, pulling through my fingers, through that cork handle, into my wrist, forearm, elbow, and cocking back into my shoulder, just kind of like this. And I'll get that nice stop at my 2 o'clock here on my clock. So back at 2, nice firm stop, just a touch of the wrist going back to get a real accentuated stop on the back side. From there, we push forward and reverse that motion, go from the elbow down, or sorry, the shoulder, elbow, forearm, and push your thumb and thumb pad through the cork handle going forward. Pop, 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 okay? Traveling in a straight line. And generally, the casting position is going to be not straight up over your shoulder, but slightly off to the side. So I'm right-handed, slightly off to my right side, and fairly high. Left-handed, slightly off to your left hand, nice and high. Okay, that rod tip, like I said, your casting motion with your hand, you're moving as such that the rod tip is traveling in as straight as line as possible, from 10 to 2, straight line. You don't want it to do this arcing motion. This will take away from the loading of the rod. You're not using the rod, you're then using your arm to cast. You're going to wear yourself out. Pop back, push forward, rod tip traveling straight back, straight forward. It's not a lot of motion, not a lot of effort. There, I just strung a few of them together. Now in fly casting here with this 10 and 2, this traditional single hand setup, you got two timing issues that you got to be aware of. The first one, remember when we pop out of the water or start your back cast, the line's going to come up and it's going to curl over your head like this. That's your loop traveling backward. Your loop travels backward over your head like so. Once it starts to open up, that loop starts to open up behind you, that is when you can start your forward cast. So you don't want to start your forward cast where your loop is still going back this way, your line's still going back this way. Make sure you get that definite pause, let your loop start to open up, then push forward to do your forward cast. Same on the forward cast. On the forward cast, my loop is now going this way over my head, traveling forward, and I got to pause at that 10 o'clock position and wait for that loop to open up like that. Then I can do another back cast. String a couple of those together. I've got some false casting going on, which is how I'm going to get my distance from here to out there, somewhere away from me that I'm trying to fish, whatever my target might be. The second timing issue that you've got to deal with is your line control hand. Me being a right-handed person, my rod hand is my right hand, my left hand is my line control hand. When I'm making a cast or setting or doing anything really regarding fly fishing, you want zero slack, almost no slack, I should say, between your line control hand, wherever I'm pinching that line, and the very end of my setup, all the way down to the flies or weights on the bottom. I can have slack here because I'm going to pull line off my reel because, well, everything is manual in fly fishing. This is the distance that I can cast. I can't really cast anything off the reel like this. I'm going to have to pull it first. So I kind of look at my distance that I want. I'm going to have some line off the reel, and then I pinch here, leaving the slack between my line control hand and the reel. Now, when you're newer, I again suggest only letting line out of your line control hand on the forward cast because you can see it. As you get better, you can let a little line out on your back cast and your forward cast, but really just inching on each forward cast. I'm going to let this hand, I'm not going to let go. I'm going to open it up and let some line slide through this hand, and I'm going to stop it again before I start my backward cast, okay? The timing is this. As I do my forward cast, my line is traveling that way now. The moment, right split second after I do a forward cast, then I open up and let some line slide through here. But then I got to pinch firmly to stop that line and make a backward cast, okay? I don't want to open up too early. I don't want to open this line up as I make the stroke or before I make the forward stroke. And I don't want to pinch too late after or right as I make my backward cast, okay? It's right after I push forward, then I let some line go. And right before I want to stop and do a back cast, then I have to pinch with this. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm sort of making a modified cast so I can show the camera a little bit better here. But that's the timing of the line control hand and how we gain distance out into the river. One thing you'll notice regarding the first timing issue that we talked about, when to make your back and forward motion, the less line you have out, the quicker your cast cadence is going to be, because it doesn't take very long for your line to travel and open up and travel and open up. But the more line you let out through your left hand here, or whatever line control hand is, your right hand for left-handed casters, the more line I have out, the more time I need to pause in between the strokes. Not necessarily, I don't have to necessarily make a longer stroke. I can open it up a little bit, but you can let a lot of line out by making that basic 10 and 2 motion. You just pause longer on your back cast to let that long distance line travel back, and then you pause again on your forward cast to let that long distance line travel forward. So let me see if I can show you this here. Not a lot of line out, got a pretty quick cadence. I'm letting a little line out, letting a little line out. See how I'm pausing? A little longer in between each cast because I have to wait for the loops to open up. And as you're beginning your fly fishing journey, I really think it's important to watch your cast. Turn your head around and just watch your back cast. You're not going to be able to feel and understand the timing of everything until you really watch it a lot and get really comfortable with it. Turn your head, watch, and you'll understand all the timing. I almost hit a duck back there. Good thing I don't have a fly on my line right now. Now, you can make that same cast and vary the angle. Again, that most standard and most beginner position is up and slightly to the side, like so. But if there's some obstruction in the way, I can change and go over my other shoulder. I can do it to the side. And in fact, side to side like this is one of my favorite ways for beginning casters to understand the distance or the timing of everything. How long it takes the loop, what it looks like to take the loop to travel and open up before you can change directions the other way. It's a great way to practice, just watching it go back side to side. What happens when I let a little more line out? If you're doing everything correctly, that rod tip up and it traveling in a fairly straight line and getting good stops on both ends of your cast, the bottom leg of your loop, and then where it curls over the top and where your fly is, that distance between the two should be about a foot, maybe a little bit more. If you're opening up and you've got too big of loops, you got too much of an arc in your cast, and if you're getting what's called a tailing loop, that's when the what's supposed to be the top loop of your line where your fly is coming down below the running line and coming out of the tip of the rod. That tailing loop means that you're not getting the right stop or you're accelerating too much. Make sure you just get a nice straight line with that rod tip going back and forth and back and forth, quick acceleration to a stop, quick acceleration to a stop, and get a little bit of practice. I promise you'll get it. It's a real beautiful thing when it comes together. So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to start from scratch as you approach the river, lake, pond, whatever you may be fishing. So I just walked up to this spot on the river. I have my fly, I unhook it, I'm ready to go. What do? Well, first thing I got to do is I'm going to put my my trigger finger on here, which is on your casting hand, and I'm going to pull a whole bunch of line out. I'm going to pull a bunch of line off because I can only cast this far. Whatever I have off the reel, that's how far I can cast. I take my fly. If you got a dry fly, you can kind of just set it over here into the river. If it's a nymphing setup or a stream or something that's going to get caught in the bottom, I usually don't just throw it out there. I'll just kind of lightly touch the water, keep my rod tip up, and now we can start. I switch my trigger finger over to my line control hand. I pinch nice and firmly, and I begin that nice firm pop. That first initial back cast is really important. I want to get a nice crisp start so I can get that rod bent and loaded, create some energy in the rod, move that line around real nice and easy. Watching my false cast, letting a little line out as I go forward. And now I'm just going to extend and drop my rod down like so, and I'm fishing. Well, I hope this video helps you. We really enjoy doing stuff like this. So if you don't mind hitting like and subscribing to our channel here, it really helps us out. You know, we use our own equipment, we buy our own stuff. It's a lot of time and effort to do this for you, and everything helps. Follow us on all the social medias, and yes, that's medias for plural. We really appreciate you. Again, into fly fishing, I'm Nic Javonovich. You guys have a great time out there, okay?